Good evening. We're with the International Dyslexia Association Oregon branch, and we're going to be joined by Debra from OTAP. Really excited to share her journey and what she's doing with assisted technology. Total game changer. So, again, really excited to share. We are coming to you in finishing year one and beginning year two of these Instagram live stories. Happy to share these journeys with everyone. And here is Debra. If you have questions tonight, feel free to drop us a line, or you can also email us at the branch at International Dyslexia Association Oregon. Hey.
Hey.
How are you doing?
I love it when the technology comes together, don't you?
Isn't it awesome?
Well, I said the technology prayer first today. So.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
I don't know that one. How does that go?
It goes, please work, amen. Don't let me have egg on my face again. That's what it says.
No. It was, I mean, par for the course, right? We're all in a pandemic. We're dealing with different challenges. It's just we roll with it. That's how it works sometimes.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh, well, it's an honor to be here. Thanks for asking me, Jared.
I'm wondering if you can start by just sharing, Debra, what is it that you do at OTAP, and what is OTAP, and how does this whole journey come about for you?
Oh my. Well, OTAP is the Oregon Technology Access Program, and it is a grant that is funded primarily through the Oregon Department of Education, and it is all about professional development and support, technical assistance across the state, supports all ages, all groups, all stakeholders. And it's been around, housed at the Douglas Education Service District here in beautiful downtown Roseburg for more than 30 years. So we like to say we're on about the 34th year of a 2-year grant. Okay. And so I'm the coordinator of OTAP. And OTAP, as I said, provides professional development. Also, we have a professional learning team who represent the different areas of the state, and we get together and talk about common barriers to access in technology, and then we find ways to combat those barriers. So there we go.
So I want to get into the barriers, but before that, had you always been interested in technology? Had this been a kind of an evolving thing for you, or how did you get started in this?
Well, and you know, when you say, have you always been interested in the technology, anytime technology is tied to your name, of course, people think that you might be a geek, someone who wants to take the computer apart and wants to put it back together. And that's never really been the perspective I've had with technology. I am of the older crowd, but I've been using technology for years and years and years myself, going back to the 80s. My first technology training was in Miami, Florida, way back when. And so the technology itself was always something that I've been using. But then when I went back to college at an older age, which shall remain just a number. When I went back to school, I was really focused on making a contribution, and what would that look like? So I just started with general studies, and then things just started coming to me. Somebody asked me would I support a learner with disabilities in the employment at the college. And so then I was working with him, and then it led to something else and led to something else. And so it's one of those journeys that the next step and the next step was obviously meant to be as we go along. But I worked at a community college in Godfrey, Illinois, and I worked with the supported school to work program there. All students all the way up to the age of 70, all with developmental disabilities. So I taught life skills, and then I developed study skills classes for kids who were having difficulty with access to curriculum. I developed classes. I took a class that was already on the books, and I said, okay, well, let's just do this and put the technology slant in to meet the objectives. And so I paired up with the standard reading and writing classes to provide the support and teach kids how to use the assistive technology that they needed. And so I didn't realize how ahead of my time I was then, but that's one of those things that I've been hoping to bring also to Oregon, is to start helping to develop study skills classes for technology. But from there, I was the trainer for for a literacy support software for North America. So I traveled around the country and throughout Canada in training and teaching people how to integrate text to speech, voice recognition, all of those things. And you know, Jared, the same issues are everywhere. It's just geography. So, you know, the same barriers exist. But then I was tired of being on the road so much. And so I got a position, or I started a position as a Computer Access Facilitator, Assistive Technology in St. Louis, across the river from where I lived. And so for 8 years, I supported kids directly in the classroom across all age groups, across 5 districts. In really working out and seeing where the barriers were and figuring out the technology and helping to learn processes that worked for them.
It's amazing. I mean, you're such a game changer. I feel so thankful that we have you here in Oregon and working locally with our state and developing and continuing your work, because it's just so awesome. And we're going to get into the barriers, but before that, I wanted to ask you, what led to you wanting to be a game changer within the educational field? Like, where did that stem from? Like, you seemed like you kind of knew that early on. Where do you...
I don't know that I did. And when did I decide to be a game changer? Well, I'm glad you think that, because it's what I set out to do, is to make a contribution. But there's so much work that needs to be done. And I feel like it is all done with a team. So that's really what it is. When I first moved here, I have a master's in assistive technology. And so coming armed with all of the background and moving here, I moved here for my son and his wife and my granddaughter. And since I moved here 5 years ago, now I have another granddaughter.
Oh,
so it's certainly, so I've been here at the right time, and I've just been reinforced on so many levels that it was the right move. But I didn't have a job when I moved here. And I was just coming by faith, and I saw this position at the Douglas ESD here. I messaged them. I said, I need full time. They said, well, can you come in on Tuesday? And within 2 days, I was hired and getting ready to start. So again, Jared, it's one of those things that was meant to happen, but the path that I took since then, very soon after I started here, within just a month after I started here, someone on the professional learning team said, Deb, there's some things going on with dyslexia. And I said, yes, I was part of that back in Missouri, but now here I'm at a level where I need to know more and to be able to lead. And so within just a month, I brought the state dyslexia person to our group, and it's been a relationship that has grown since then. I was part of the Oregon Dyslexia Advisory Council, and again, it's by no accident. Some of the first students that I remember having at the community college were my first experience in working with the fabulously talented folks with dyslexia. And a set of twins, both of them going into childcare. Both of them will tell you that the technology is what helped them to get their degrees. And I stay in touch with them. I recently put together a little article about them because they are my why. And moving forward, those are the faces that I see every time I realize that I need to be doing more to make education accessible.
So powerful. Um, I think back to our student panel and the technology that they use and what you're doing for your, I just know that the impact that you're making on an individual level and then also on a global level, I think is just so powerful. What are the barriers? What are the challenges you're seeing in this field of assistive technology and moving the ball forward?
Well, access, of course, is where it all starts. And so if you have someone who has a particular barrier for that is known as a print disability, that's someone who can't see the text to independently use it, who might have orthopedic impairment, who can't independently turn pages, and then anyone who has difficulty in reading or comprehending in the traditional way. Those are all learners who are who can be documented and given alternative formats. And so, but they're not. People have access has traditionally meant, yes, I gave them the book.
Yeah.
And we all know that for some people, the book might as well be a paperweight because gaining meaning from it is more challenging. So we know better now. We know that we have digital text. We know that if we provide it, that people can use apps and tools to listen to it, to meet their learning styles. And learning styles is one of those words that's kind of fallen out of favor as a particular style because we all learn in a variety of ways with our senses. And that's really what it's about, providing material so that we can take it in through all of our senses and be able to put it out in the same way.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I like how you phrase that. But as you were talking, the question kept coming in my mind, how do we get past these barriers? How does that process work? Where do you think it needs to go?
Well, I think that education and training is really where it all is. Kids who have the ability or who would qualify, and I don't like to say that because we all should get the material that works for us. So it's not really a qualification, but it has to be a qualification according to publisher rights that you can get material without copyright infringement. And so there has to be documentation. And I know there's a lot of reasons that hasn't happened. People don't understand the importance. They maybe don't understand what a game changer, to use your term, what a game changer being able to interact with their material is, being able to listen to it, to put on the headphones, to be able to click or to watch it to turn colors so that you can track with it as it goes along. Takes away a lot of the stress of knowing how to take the material in so that now you're focused on learning the content and not trying to decode and figure out what it means. And, so many people are able to maybe even decode and decipher, but then gathering the whole meaning to be able to process it and embrace it is another challenge. So a barrier. People don't understand. And so a lot of it comes back to being about training, about awareness, about equity, about making sure that the tools are available from one side of our state to the other, regardless of the demographics, that it is part of our learners' individual education plan, that it should be required. And again, that's up to interpretation. So it really needs to have more teeth to it. And so when we think of that, that's part of what we're hoping to do in OTAP in some of our plans. The language does leave a lot of room. We want to tighten that up whenever the IEP is opened up again. Another thing that Oregon has that not every state has in their IEP is the consideration for alternative formats. And it is required in the IEP to consider it. But again, Jared, there's nothing that enforces it.
Right.
And across our state, there are so many different systems that there's not one system that everybody's using. So, those are some of the barriers. But we now, here in Oregon, I'm proud to say that we have been selected as one of the 7 states nationally to be part of the AIM Accessible Educational Materials cohort. That's through the National AIM Center on the East Coast. And so we are now, we have put together a statewide leadership team from all of the different entities, including higher ed, early childhood, including RTI, the response to intervention, multi-tiered systems, all of those acronyms that we use so abundantly. But we have the right people sitting at the table, including Gen Ed, Jared.
Mm-hmm.
And we are now looking for 3 districts to be our district level partners for this process. And we will work with them with the AIM Center and helping to look at the processes and come up with and develop a statewide provision or statewide process for the timely provision, timely, equitable provision of the alternative format, and then provide the training on that, provide the additional training on the technologies that are needed. So I'm really excited about that grant because it is bringing together, again, everybody at the table who should be there.
Well, the AIM is really powerful in itself on the East Coast. So to have an element of that coming out West and the right, like you said, the right people at the table, understanding the equity issues that are going on in our state, this could be a real opportunity to switch things around.
You betcha. And Oregon is the only state on the west side that is part of the grant right now. I have to say that the more I learn about what Oregon's doing, the more I know we're going to be leading the country in a lot of areas, because we are working with the other cohort members from the other states, sharing ideas. And we have some real go-getters here, and I'm so proud of the team that we're putting together. But it's just, we're going to make AIM a household word. We're talking about public service announcements. We're talking about, you name it. I mean, it just really has to begin with the belief that if people have the right tools and the right materials, that they're going to succeed. And that's where we start. We start with that belief.
So needed. And our president, Daniel Thompson, she's on the chat here and just saying we're so excited and congrats on getting that connection with AIM and getting that work going, because like you said, it's so needed and it's going to help our state be a leader.
It's bringing in every perspective, including parents. And that's why I think really that this organization, this group, whenever we are talking and getting ready to roll things out, and I think that our partnership is going to really be key into making sure that the parent and the learner perspective is part of the equation. The further we get from the boardroom, the less sense those decisions make. And so we want to make sure that the people who are the most important here, their voices are heard so that it can make the difference.
You said something earlier on this talk, and I think it's important, as you kind of referenced parents and the students that might be listening in, or our student panel members, of just dyslexics having brilliant minds and having these abilities and opportunities to now showcase their knowledge through assistive technology. Because if we hand them a paperweight, they're not going to be able to showcase that if they just get the book. But if we can give them assistive technology and put them in a position for success, they're going to be able to showcase all their talents. And I think that's
absolutely. I had the pleasure of meeting the student empowerment panel at the International Dyslexia Association, the conference in the fall of 2019.
Okay.
A while ago, whenever it was here in Portland. But what an outstanding young group of leaders, and so well spoken. And I was so proud of them that I believe that they are also presenting at a couple of different conferences, but they are one of the key groups, a session at our annual conference that's coming up at the end of April. They're going to be right after the Gen Ed keynote, and then they'll be talking about this perspective. And it's, Jared, I know that that the more you talk about dyslexia, the more you hear people say, oh, I've got that, or, oh, I know somebody who's got it. It is so common that whenever I was talking to our keynote, and then the student empowerment panel is going to follow you, she got a little choked up, Jared, because it's very personal for her as well. And
Sure.
it just seemed like one of those things that was meant to happen. And then I have to tell you that the very next session we're going to be doing is called Breaking Down Silos, and highlighting the partnerships and the power of that. And we will be highlighting, I'm going to be talking about the partnership with the folks, all of the dyslexia organizations. That's part of my contribution to the conversation, to say that when you are open and you are listening, you will hear what it is that you're meant to do. And the relationship with that empowerment panel brings tears to my eyes. I was so proud in listening to them that I think that everybody needs to know about them. That's how you do it. You shout out the successes.
Totally.
And that's what makes people want to get on the bandwagon. You have to tell them.
Absolutely. And we thank you for all the showcasing that you're doing for the community, because it makes a difference, and it brings about that positivity and that hope that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and that there are success stories out there, and there are relatable stories, and there's a lot of people that are going through this. So you're hitting this on a number of fronts. And
so
as
many people have the misconception that you just have to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and work harder. No, what we're doing in education is preparing people for what happens after education. And part of that is learning what works for you, and learning the process, and being able to advocate for that. And whenever students leave us, they should be prepared and not feel that there's something wrong with them. There's something wrong with our system that can't encourage them to be the best that they can be.
Yeah, Jane Cooper, our past president, says you're just so instrumental to this process, Deb, and a lot of cheers coming your way, and exclamation points. So hope you feel the love out there within the community.
I do, and I'm so honored to be asked to even speak to you. I don't feel that I bring anything special to the table, but it's so lovely to make connection with people who hear it and see it. And
we have a question. So how are educators learning the technology that is available for their students?
How are the educators learning it? Well, when we think about the technology, there are so many different combinations. And even to say that assistive technology is really just assistive now, there's a lot of gray area. And so Gen Ed technologies, it's assistive if you take it away from everyone, and the person who does not have plan B, for them, it's assistive and it's required. And so if it's a Gen Ed technology, then people are learning about those things. They should also be learning about the accessibility features that are built in, because that's the first thing that they can try. And so many people seem to be chasing the next best app and trying to find the magic cure, that you don't have to have every tool. You just need to really know how to work with and integrate the ones that are crucial, and build capacity and help people feel competent and comfortable with that. And so how do we help people know? Again, we're going back to training. We are, of course, we have our annual conference, but we are also We have some virtual networks, Jared, in partnership with the University of Wyoming, their ECHO project. It is all about virtual PD and includes case studies so that people can really talk about the application of the tools. We have one now for therapists in talking about support for our complicated kids. We have one now for communication for our complicated communicators, and we are getting ready to start another for AIM. And so Echo AIM will be launching soon. Another one of those ways that we're going to be able to deliver professional development, give credit for it for teachers, because that's important. And what is the reason? Giving credit for it, recording it so that they could watch it at home in their jammies. And we've also been adding comprehension quizzes so that they can get credit for viewing it in their jammies if they answer the questions. So making sure that there is reason for them to join us, but we are just trying to be really innovative and getting the word out there. It's not a secret, but now that we have partners and through our AIM project with the Gen Ed folks, I really see that some of the magic is really going to start happening in sharing ideas and sharing topic matters at our cross-presenting at our conferences. And how do they learn about it? Well, they're going to have a hard time not learning about it in the near future, I think.
That's amazing. That is a golden nugget right there. So as we kind of wrap up tonight, I always like to give the guests the last word. And what is your message? What is your message to educators or students or parents out there? What do you want people to know?
What do I want people to know? Well, I've kind of touched on it, that everybody is a puzzle, and everybody has different strengths, different challenges. When we look at the areas that our kids with dyslexia might have struggles in, every child has struggles in those areas on some level. When we look at the areas that our kids with dyslexia really excel in the ways that they are taught, that works for all of our kids. And so we just really need to be joining in and looking at the best practices and implementing them, and taking away the idea that it has to be our kids or their kids. They're all our kids, and we really want to be able to support everyone and take away the idea that that people are so different that they don't have so much more in common. Wonderful.
That is
Wonderful opportunities ahead of us, and the last year has really shown us the importance of our work and making sure that kids have access. And I just couldn't be more excited about the work ahead of us, even though there are so many challenges at the same time.
So powerful, and so beautifully said. One of the questions from our chat is, can you share the website that you were referencing for educators? And maybe you can send that to me offline and we can post it to this video.
So I will share with you the OTAP webpage.
Yeah.
It is now, we have been working on it, and it now has the links to the ECHO sessions that we already have out there, and we'll have that information in the future. We do have our conference information, and it's all on our OTAP website. So I'll make sure, and let me see, I probably could add a comment here, but.
Oh yeah, you can do it that way too.
I could, but I think I'll just send it to you.
Yeah, just send it to me and I can drop it. I'll drop it in this video so people can see it, and we'll get it shared through IDA Oregon as well. So
okay.
Thank you
Okay.
so much for taking
Oh,
the
thank you for
time.
what you do too, Jared. You're such an inspiration. I love following you and your journeys and your fundraising and your passion that you have. It's so nice to meet people who are of similar ilk, and I look forward to partnering with you and the any opportunity I can.
Yeah, I can't wait. We'll keep collaborating. Thank you so much, and you have a
Thank
great
you.
evening. Take care.
Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.